Hi everyone, how are you today? This week I was commissioned to do a baby boy quilt and I decided I was gonna make it with you guys. I call it the Space Cadet Baby Quilt. Catchy, don't you think? Think rockets and planets and stars and stuff like that. Yes, I do know I could have just picked some space-related fabric and be done with that, but really, where's the fun in that? Here's what I decided to do instead. I chose to do Applique Quilt Blocks with space shapes, if you will. And as for any kind of new shape I'm looking for, I just go on Google, Google space silhouette or space stuff and get all sorts of options, from Martians to astronauts, you take your pick. Then I pick the ones I like the best and trace them over my computer screen onto paper. Because who needs a light pad when you can just trace over your screen, right? Well, actually, I can't really trace anything with this amount of light, sorry. I have to turn off the lights, increase my screen light to maximum, and then I'll actually be able to see something. Be back in a second. Okay, so I picked 4 different shapes. A rocket, a planet with a ring around it, another planet that kind of reminds me of the moon, with craters and all that, and some stars. Now I just traced my molds around the fabric and I'll be needing 4 blocks of each shape because this is going to be a 30 by 40 inch baby quilt. Since I've had this channel, I have pretty much recorded every single thing I've sewn. Some made it on YouTube, others haven't. For this baby quilt, I'm doing pretty much the same, so I could publish a quilt top video, a free motion quilting video, if it goes smoothly I can even do it in real time if you'd like, just to brag. Just kidding, kind of. But anyway, I could also do a machine binding video. And oh, this quilt will also have a name machine sewn into it, so I could show you that too. What I mean is, if you would like to see more stages of this very cute quilt being made, just let me know and I'll make those videos for you. Okay, so now that we have our appliques, appliques? In Portuguese is appliques, but I don't think that's going to work in English. I think it's French actually. Okay, so now that we have them, we are going to add them to 4-inch wide squares and we'll be sewing them on real quick. Also, I could have just added some interfacing to these appliques and applied them with an iron before sewing. I sometimes do that, with some heat and bond. I certainly do that with the names I add to my quilts because it is the best way to make sure they keep straight as I sew them. But it also adds a kind of hardness to the quilt, even with the thinnest interfacing, and I just don't like that. I prefer my quilts, particularly if it's a baby quilt, to be soft and malleable. You know what I mean? Also, my sewing machine does not like interfacing all that much. Okay, our appliques are now sewn on and we just need to add some frames to these squares, right? I'm doing this quilt in greens and blues and my only rule, well I guess you can call it a rule, is if the applique is green, then the frame will be blue. So I just used the exact same fabrics but paired them with different fabrics like so. And I'm doing 1.5-inch strips to frame these white squares. And then we sew. Well, with chain piece actually, to make it quicker, like an assembly line if you will. So we sew one side on every square and then we go back and we sew another side and so on. Let me show you what I mean. On one hand, it takes longer to see the block complete, which is a total bummer, but on the other, it really helps to save time doing it this way. I guess you just have to try it yourself and see the difference. And then let me know what you think. And then, after we sew every single square and these quilt blocks are starting to look pretty much ready, what do? We press them, of course, once again. Okay, we are done with that. And guess what, guys? I am not feeling it at all. Oh, it is such a bummer when this happens, but it does happen on occasion. You have this idea of how this quilt will turn out, and when you actually start to see the blocks coming to life, it's just not working. And when this happens, the only thing you can do really is to stop and look at it for as long as it takes until you figure out exactly what's not working, exactly what's wrong with it. Okay, I'm happy with the colors and I'm happy with the shapes, I'm sure about that. I think this looks a little bit too grown up, too adulty. The colors are too dark, that's just not, this quilt is just not baby enough for me. Yeah, I think that's it. It's not light enough, Well, the good news is that's easily fixable. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, executive decision. We are adding one more quilt block. It's something soft and colorful and light. Just give me a second to see what I find out on Google. I'll be right back, okay? I got it! A sun! Of course! That is exactly what this quilt needs. Some yellow among the greens and the blues. And come on, every baby quilt needs a sun, don't you think? Okay, so I am going back to trace and cut and sew all 4 new squares, and then I'm adding the frame. And I'm actually adding a new blue here. Well, not really, because I had already selected it for the name and the binding. And then, of course, we press these new squares. Okay, so this new addition means we need to rework our math here. Because if it's going to be 20 squares instead of 16, these blocks need to be trimmed down, to fit our 30 by 40 inch quilt. So that's what we're doing next. And guys, about the pressing and the trimming, I do realize it is 2 of the most boring steps when quilting, and if I'm honest, I didn't really used to do it. Heck, if you go back to my Vlogmas quilt blogs, you will see I did not trim when I really should have. But you can also probably see how much of a difference it makes. It also allows you to see what a block really looks like, before you make that quilt top, because by then it is kind of too late if you spot a mistake. And that's it, I guess. Our quilt blocks are done. All 20 of them are ready to be sewn together into a lovely baby quilt top. And I, for once, am thrilled with my decision. I think it looks really great and I can't wait to see how it will all turn out. And if you'd like to see that, let me know in a comment and I will make that video for you. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you soon. Bye bye!